Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. My name is Sarah and today I'm going to be talking about my reading habits. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to do a little video discussing some of the things that I do and don't do when it comes to reading. I know everybody kind of has their own specific reading habits, their own things that work for them, their own little quirks. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to have a list of like 10 this or that kind of questions to talk about kind of what I do when I read, how I read, how I handle my books when I read. We all know that there's those taboo things of how we handle books that everybody either does or absolutely freaks out about. So the first thing is, do I prefer paperbacks or hardcovers? I don't really have a super strong preference to either or. I do think that hardcovers are just a little sturdier, so I like them better for that reason. But paperbacks are always cheaper and they're just kind of more fun to hold, I guess. I like the super floppy paperbacks in particular. I think overall, despite paperbacks being cheaper, I do like hardcovers a little bit more because I think that you can have a lot of fun special editions with the dust jacket and also the naked cover itself. So then kind of branching off of that is the question of, do I break the spines of my paperbacks? And kind of a two-part answer. I used to, but I don't anymore. So when I was younger, I used to love breaking the spines of my books. Thought it was a way to showcase like which books were my favorite or whatever. However, I don't do it anymore. I actually try really hard not to break my spines because now that I've gotten older, those some of those favorite books of mine that do have broken spines are much more fragile. Some of those books are at least like 10-15 years old. So I try really hard not to break the spines. I want my books to last a lot longer and I don't want them to fall apart anymore. And then the hardcover side of things, do I take off my dust jackets when I read my books? And this is another two-part answer. When I was younger, I did. I don't anymore. And I feel like this is kind of where people are gonna want to like throttle me with this answer, because when I was younger, my mom always used to tell me to take off my dust jackets for my hardcovers in order to preserve them better. But me, being the airhead child that I was, never realized that she only meant when I was reading the books. And so I thought she meant to take them off permanently and keep them stored kind of in a pile on top of my bookcase. And my room and my kind of little like bookcase area was on the second story of the house. It always got really, really hot in there during the summer and really humid. And so you can guess that, you know, those dust jackets would get really, really warped, and then they just wouldn't fit on the books anymore. They would curl really bad, and so I threw them all away. Don't come at me, don't come at me. Because of that, I don't take them off anymore, to be honest. Even when I'm reading them, I just kind of keep the dust jackets on. There have been a couple of my special editions that are particularly expensive that I have taken the dust jackets off while I was reading them and then put them back on, but for the most part I do keep them on while I'm reading them. On my shelves that have some of my older books, there are some that are just the naked hardcovers because they no longer have the dust jackets. And then the next topic point is, do I use a bookmark or do I dog ear my pages? And I have always used a bookmark. If I'm in a pinch, I'll dog ear, but I haven't really ever dog eared except for maybe like a handful of times. Normally I always use a bookmark. I used to have this really large collection of bookmarks, of like some nice metal ones and some ribbon ones, and then just like your paper ones that you pick up from like the library or whatever. And it was a really big collection, and then from various moves to college and then out of my parents' house, I somehow lost almost all of them. So I've since then kind of started slowly building up my bookmark collection again. It's nowhere near what it used to be, but I do have a handful in this little bookmark thing. I don't know if you can see, I've got just like a couple paper ones. This one my husband made me, and then some like, I don't know, what would you call these? Like they're not string ones. I don't know what you'd call them. And I've got a couple metal ones in there too. But yeah, I do use bookmarks. and I don't dog ear. And then something that kind of goes along with the idea of dog earing is, do I annotate my books? The short answer is no. However, it is something that I've always kind of wanted to do. I have tabbed a couple of books. There's a read-along that I participated in, and so I tabbed the books that I was reading in that. But I never really wrote in them or highlighted anything. I would like to kind of reread a couple of some of my favorites and then go back and tab and highlight and maybe annotate in there. I do really love seeing when people do that. I think it really adds another layer to the reading experience, and I think it's just really fun to see people kind of really personalize their experience with the story through annotating. Another question is, do I read one book at a time or do I have multiple books on the go? For the most part, I only ever read one book at a time. I don't like having multiple books going at the same time because I struggle to keep the story straight, and then I get really wrapped up in the one particular story, and I don't really want to divide my attention to other stories while I'm so focused on like the main one. I worry that I'm gonna like either confuse details with stories if they're too similar in terms of like genre, or I also just don't want to miss any key points because I wasn't reading closely enough and focusing my whole like reading section of my brain on this one story. However, I have in the past had an audiobook that I was listening to that was separate than the physical book that I was reading, and I usually, whenever I've done this, I have them be two very different genres. So like the physical book I'll be reading will be fantasy, then I'll also have an audiobook that I'll be going back and forth to during the same time period that's like a completely different genre, like contemporary or like a mystery novel or something. So I have done that in the past, and then I have also kind of done something similar with a read-along. If I'm reading a book for a read-along and I'm having to kind of pace myself to keep up with like the schedule of the read-along, I will have that one kind of going on the side, and then have like the main book that I'm reading during the same time period as well. So for the most part, no, I stick to one book at a time, but I have kind of juggled like a physical book and an audiobook, or a read-along book and then like another one during the same time period. Another question is, do I prefer series or do I prefer standalone books? Most of the time I prefer to read a series, especially if it's in the fantasy or science fiction genre. I think that having a series allows the author to really take their time in delving into this world, and then just in general, I think series allows authors to really flesh out different plot points and their characters, and then especially if it's a cast of characters that are really likable, I obviously would love to spend more than just one book with them. And then kind of going off of that, do I like to binge a series and read the books in a series back to back, or do I like to spread out a series and read other books in between each installment of the series? I used to like to binge a series. I used to prefer reading it that way. However, I've realized within the past like 6 months or so that if I kind of spread out a series a little bit and have like a couple of books in between each installment that I read, I end up enjoying the series a lot more, and I guess I just get kind of like more excited to come back to that world and that cast of characters and see kind of what's gonna happen next. And so that's kind of what I've been doing more recently, is I kind of like to spread out the series that I read. And then the next question is, can I read anywhere and at any time, or do I have to have a designated chunk of time for reading? Basically, if I have 10 minutes somewhere where I have to wait for something, I will pull out my book and read for that 10 minutes. Like, I don't need a designated chunk of time. 10 minutes is kind of like my minimum that I look for. If I've only got like 5 minutes, then I'll just scroll on my phone. But if I've got like, you know, a little bit, then I will sit and read instead. It's kind of like a requirement for me when I buy a purse or a bag that it has to be able to fit a standard hardcover novel in it, because I carry a book with me almost anywhere I go. Even if I'm like 99% sure that I'm not gonna have any chance to like sit and read for any period of time. I usually still stick a book in my bag because it's like a security blanket for me. It's the comfort to know that it's like in there in my bag with me. I don't know why. I just prefer to have one with me anywhere I go. But yeah, those are kind of like the 10 little book habit prompts that I kind of thought of. Of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and I hope you consider sticking around and subscribing. And as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!